We are diving straight into the masterful, hidden craftsmanship behind a truly unforgettable psychological thriller, Shutter Island. Throughout this explainer, we're going to peel back the layers of deception that were meticulously constructed by Martin Scorsese, his brilliant cast, and the original author. We really want to understand exactly how this film manages to completely, and I mean completely, rewire our perception of reality. You're so attached to the storyline and to the truth, and to find out you've been really on a whole different journey. When the script for this film first started making the rounds, this was the exact reaction it provoked. As a viewer, or even as someone reading the original script, you are right there in the trenches with the central character. Suddenly, the blood just drains right out of your legs, and you literally don't know which way is up. So let's explore exactly how the filmmakers engineered that visceral, horrifying drop. Here is our investigation file for today. 1. The Cold War paranoia. 2. The unreliable narrator's guilt. 3. Acting roles within roles. 4. Directing 3 films constantly. And finally, 5. Scoring a tapestry of emotion. Starting with number 1, the Cold War paranoia. So the original book was actually written back in 2002. The author, Dennis Lehane, was feeling this immense anger and really a deep confusion about where the world, and specifically his country, was heading at the time. But rather than tackle 2002 head-on, he decided to come at it sideways. He went looking for a historical mirror and ended up finding the perfect reflection in the 1950s, more specifically 1954. This was an era absolutely defined by McCarthyism and a paralyzing, deep-seated terror of the atomic age. He basically asked himself, what is this level of fear going to do to us? And used that societal dread as the bedrock for the whole story. To build this unsettling world, Lehane tossed some very specific ingredients into the mix. He leaned super heavily into classic paranoid political thrillers. Think about the deep, lingering paranoia of The Manchurian Candidate, or the original Don Siegel version of Invasion of the Body Snatchers. He stirred that gothic, paranoid pot with one ultimate goal in mind. He wanted to see if he could successfully write a completely unreliable narrator. Which brings us to Section 2, the unreliable narrator's guilt. Think about the shared duality of our protagonist. On the surface, we are completely sold on this reality where Teddy is a tough, resilient U.S. Marshal who just arrived on a strange island to investigate a missing person. But the hidden truth is Andrew, the 67th patient at Ashiel Cliff. Andrew is a man fundamentally trapped by immense guilt. Guilt from the horrific things he did in the war, combined with a devastating personal tragedy. The entire narrative we see, it's really just a coping mechanism for how he deals with that unbearable psychological weight. Did you ever meet a patient named Andrew Lattice? When Teddy asks this question out loud, he's basically hunting for a phantom. But the sheer genius of the script is that we, the audience, are completely anchored to his perspective. We are hunting right alongside him. We feel his confusion, we share his anger, and we are totally oblivious to the fact that the man he's furiously hunting is himself. Leonardo DiCaprio, who absolutely crushed this incredibly complex role, summed it up perfectly. He said, "I killed a lot of people in the war. It's the guilt that Teddy has that carries me through the picture." It's fascinating because DiCaprio spent weeks before they even started shooting just diving deep into research. He had to map out the different emotional and psychological levels Teddy had to reach. He was actually asking the original author questions that were so deep about the character's psyche, the author himself didn't even know the answers. Moving on to Section 3, acting roles within roles. Martin Scorsese didn't just cast this film, he assembled an absolute masterclass and arranged these actors like a painter placing one color next to another for maximum impact. You've got DiCaprio navigating these incredibly intense emotional states, what they described as a Hamlet stage of his career. Then there's Mark Ruffalo, just radiating this persistent loyalty and affection as his partner. You have the towering, intimidating, and frankly sexy authority brought by Sir Ben Kingsley and Max von Sydow as the head doctors. And of course, Michelle Williams, bringing this hauntingly beautiful vulnerability to the hallucination scenes. But here is where the performances become a total mindbender. Literally every single supporting character on screen, the doctors, the guards, the nurses, the orderlies, they're all staff members of a mental institution who are just playing a role to indulge a single patient. Mark Ruffalo isn't playing a U.S. Marshal. He's playing a doctor pretending to be a U.S. Marshal while actively trying to monitor his highly dangerous patient's emotional state, all while trying to genuinely be his friend. The cast described it as walking a continuous, terrifying tightrope. Now, Section 4, directing 3 films constantly. Scorsese wasn't just making one movie here. He was planting clues that completely changed the entire meaning of the film on a second viewing. Take a look at step 1. When Teddy arrives on the boat, the guards surround him looking super threatening. But watch it again, and you realize they aren't threatening him. They're absolutely terrified because they've just been handed a highly dangerous, volatile patient. For step 2, watch Mark Ruffalo's character Chuck clumsily fumble to unclip his firearm holster. An experienced U.S. Marshal wouldn't struggle like that, but a psychiatrist? For sure. And step 3, when Teddy interviews the staff, they give him these super sarcastic answers. Why? Well, they're used to treating him as a patient, and they are thoroughly, profoundly annoyed that they have to sit there and pretend to respect him as a real detective. To actually get that authentic annoyance from the orderlies, Scorsese used a brilliant, kind of sneaky tactic. He made the extras sit through 2 full days and nights of shooting that exact same interrogation scene. By the end of the second day, he told them, "I want the look on your faces just exactly the way you look right now. Just give me that total look of you want to go home, you want to get away from this room." He captured genuine utter boredom, and it perfectly fit the narrative of staff members who were just completely exhausted from playing along with the patient's fantasy. And then, oh man, the subtle editing tricks. During one of the interrogations, a patient named Bridget Kearns asks for a glass of water. Now, if you pay really close attention to the editing and exactly when the camera cuts, there's a moment where she raises her hand to drink, but there's literally no glass in her hand. It's just mimed, only for the glass to suddenly appear in the very next shot. Scorsese sprinkled these bizarre, disorienting glitches throughout the whole film. On a first viewing, it doesn't quite raise a red flag, but subconsciously, it absolutely adds to this creeping feeling that reality itself is fracturing. Let's look at Section 5, scoring a tapestry of emotion. Scorsese brought in his old friend Robbie Robertson, formerly of the band, to handle the music. But they made a really radical choice. Instead of hiring a composer to write a standard traditional score, they decided to take existing music from modern composers, slice it up into sections, and move it all around. They wanted to create a completely disorienting world of sound. It's like a giant auditory puzzle. For instance, during that incredibly unsettling boat arrival, they used a piece called Fog Tropes by Ingram Marshall. When you listen to it, you can't quite tell, are you hearing a literal foghorn from the boat, or is that the music itself? It just becomes this overwhelming wall of sound and water. Then contrast that with the heart-wrenching dream scene with Teddy's wife in the apartment. For that, they utilized Max Richter's On the Nature of Daylight, which provides this overwhelmingly beautiful, emotional anchor right in the middle of all the chaos. The entire soundtrack became this woven tapestry of emotion that perfectly reflected the inner turmoil Teddy, the doctors, and the staff were all feeling over those 3 fateful days. From the intense societal paranoia baked right into the 1954 setting, to the agonizing guilt crushing the protagonist, to the actors playing roles within roles, right down to those subliminal editing tricks and the blurred musical score, every single layer of this narrative is meticulously designed to deceive you. So when you experience a story constructed with this much hidden, obsessive mastery, it really leaves us with one haunting question. When every layer is a lie, how do you ever know you've finally reached the truth?